revealed. How a heartwarming encounter with a waitress changed a millionaire's life forever? Jack Coleman stood in his sleek chrome and glass office, his gaze fixed on the expanse of the city. In the reflection, he saw a polished image of a man, a self-made millionaire, but inside, a storm raged. This wasn't the life he had dreamed of back in his small-town upbringing. As a kid, he watched his father sweat through long shifts at the factory, pouring himself into every job. Those memories, saturated with hard work and determination, now felt like a distant echo in the cavernous halls of his high-rise. Tonight, the loneliness prickled at him. The pressure of success had spun a web of isolation around him. He needed to reconnect with his roots, to feel the warmth of simpler moments. As an impulsive decision unfurled in his mind, he grabbed his coat and stepped out of the skyscraper into the night, heading straight for the diner where he had spent countless evenings with his family. Entering the diner brought back a rush of nostalgia, the red vinyl booths, the smell of bacon and pancakes, and a warmth that settled in his chest. The chatter of laughter and clinking silverware enveloped him like an old friend. He slid into a corner booth, ordering a meatloaf that seemed to jumpstart the familiarity of yesteryears. That's when he met Emma, a waitress with a bright smile that sparkled even in the low light of the diner. Her movements were deft, pouring coffee and balancing plates, all while she sang along to a tune playing softly in the background. Despite the exhaustion behind her eyes, there was a fire there too, a resilience that reminded him of his father. "Is this your favorite spot?" she asked, setting the steaming plate before him. He smiled, nodding as he took in her easy charm. They talked about everything and nothing, laughter mingling with the scent of food. Felt good, really good. Emma shared her dream of opening a bakery, her face lighting up with each detail. Jack felt himself lean in closer, captivated by her ambition. A wave of admiration washed over him. Here was someone fighting a constant battle, juggling shifts at the diner and the demands of two small children while taking care of her ailing father. But just as Emma's story warmed his heart, a knot formed in his stomach. He could offer her help and investment, a boost for her dreams, but would that put him at odds with the elite circles he had come from? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The laughter in the diner faded from his consciousness, replaced by the cold calculations of his affluent life. He could hear the whispers of his wealthy friends, their judgments creeping in. Kindness was a weakness, offering help was a betrayal. Jack looked back at Emma, the warmth in his chest clashing with the chill in his mind. How could he bridge these two worlds? They seemed so far apart now. Would he lose himself to the pressures of status and wealth? Or could he dare to reach across the divide and offer a lifeline to someone who so desperately needed one? As the diner continued to bustle around him, he pondered the true meaning of connection. A single decision hung in the air, waiting to be made. Would Jack choose belonging over wealth? The answer was as steamy and tantalizing as the plate of meatloaf in front of him, tied to a future he had yet to define. Jack's fork hovered over his meatloaf as the weight of the decision pressed down on him. He could feel sweat bead at his temples, a stark contrast to the cool air of the diner. The conversations around him became a muted backdrop, like a distant memory fading as he focused solely on Emma. Her face, lit by an incandescent bulb above, radiated the kind of light that made dreams seem attainable. "What's your biggest challenge?" Jack asked suddenly, unaware of how the words slipped out. He wanted to know more about her struggles, the reality behind the smiling facade. Emma paused, her brow furrowing slightly. She took a small breath, her defenses falling for just a moment. "Honestly, balancing everything. The kids need me, and my father, I'm running on fumes half the time." The words tumbled out, heavy with honesty. It was a vulnerability that sparked something deep inside him. Jack couldn't help but study her. She wore an apron slightly frayed at the edges, a pair of well-loved sneakers scuffed from years of work. Yet, despite the exhaustion in her eyes, there was a tenacity that held him captive. He wanted to help her, but clarity eluded him. As she moved to another table, Jack found himself trapped in thoughts. Should he risk everything? He imagined it. The fallout from his friends, the sharp words, the judgmental glances. They wouldn't he understand. Yet, what did their opinions matter compared to the bright light flickering in front of him? When Emma returned, Jack felt a rush of determination. "What if I could help you open that bakery?" He blurted out, and the words felt more terrifying than liberating. The room seemed to shrink around them, his heart racing. He was laying it all on the line. A flicker of surprise washed over Emma's features, her sweet smile faltering. "You're serious?" Her eyes widened slightly, a mixture of hope and uncertainty battling within. Jack dug deep, searching for reassurance in his tone. "I am. I know people, I have resources. Just think about it, your vision could be a reality." She shook her head slowly. "It's a nice thought, Jack, but I can't ask you to do that. It's just not how things work." Her response landed like a heavy weight in the pit of his stomach. "But why not? You deserve it. Because I'm not your charity case. I want to just take help and run." "It's complicated," she replied, her voice firm although uncertainty lingered in her eyes. Jack leaned back, the distance between them suddenly feeling unbearable. He could sense the gulf that separated her world from his. He was a million miles away from the everyday struggles she faced, but in that moment, he craved the connection more than the distance. "Emma," he said, each word dropping like a stone into a still pond, sending ripples through his heart, "I believe in you." The corners of her lips turned up, but the spark of reality dimmed it quickly. "You don't know me." "Not really. Helping isn't so simple." With that, Jack felt a pang of frustration. He wanted to shake off the doubts that clung to her thoughts. "But I want to. I could help you get started. What do you have to lose?" Emma looked away, her resolve clouding over. "Everything," she whispered as silence washed over them. Jack painfully realized that offering help was just the first step. The true challenge lay ahead, a battle against ingrained fears and skepticism. Could he persuade her to trust in the partnership he envisioned? The glow from the diner seemed dimmer. Yet he couldn't shake the potency of Emma's spirit. He felt torn between his affluent status and a longing for genuine connection. Jack glanced outside, where the bustling streets mirrored the chaos within. As he looked back at her, a question hung in the air, a question rooted in hope and uncertainty. Would love for one another be enough to transcend the barriers that life had drawn between them? And just like that, Jack knew he was embarking on a journey deeper than either of them could fathom. But would Emma ever be willing to take the leap into the unknown with him? Jack watched as Emma stepped away from the table, her form disappearing into the hustle of the diner. He felt like he had thrown a stone into still water, but hadn't he seen the ripples return? The weight of their conversation clung to him. Uncertainty washed over him, but so did determination. He shifted in his seat, glancing at the family seated around him, the laughter of children mingling with the scent of fresh coffee. It was a scene that felt so far from what he'd just discussed with Emma. His heart raced with possibility and dread. Time slipped by slowly, each tick of the clock a reminder of the uncharted territory he had stepped into. He pushed the meatloaf around on his plate, frustration bubbling under the surface. He had offered her a lifeline, yet she'd rejected it. Wasn't that what he was supposed to do? He had always been the one to fix things. After a while he couldn't just sit there anymore. He slid from his booth and walked toward the kitchen. The sounds of pots clanging and the low hum of voices enveloped him. He was on a mission. "Emma!" he called out, his voice cutting through the clamor. She turned, her eyes widening in surprise. "Can we talk?" She hesitated, wiping her hands on her apron, but he saw the flicker of intrigue in her eyes. "Jack, I'm busy just for a minute," he urged, his chest tight with urgency. She sighed but nodded, stepping outside the kitchen door where a bright light spilled onto the back alley. They stood there, the cool evening air wrapping around them. "Okay, what is so important?" she asked, crossing her arms over her chest. "I know you think I'm just some rich guy throwing money around, but there's more to it than that. I mean it when I say I want to help you." His voice softened. "I want you to be happy. I see you. I see how hard you work." Emma leaned against the brick wall, the shadows flickering in the dim light. "You don't understand my life, Jack. It's not just about wanting to open a bakery. It's about feeding my kids, keeping a roof over their heads, looking after my dad. I can't jeopardize that for a dream. Jack felt his heart twist. He knew fear, but hers was a different kind of protective instinct fueled by love and sacrifice. The kind of love that shaped everything in her world. I get it. But what if I can help you create a safety net while you chase that dream? You don't have to risk everything. I promise there will be ways to make it work without throwing your life into chaos. Jack, you're talking about something that could change everything, she replied, her voice shaky yet firm. Yes. And isn't that what you want? To change your life? His gaze locked onto hers, desperate to break through. I want it, but it feels so out of reach. The vulnerability in her voice spotted his resolve. Then let me help you reach it. You don't have to go it alone. We can take small steps together. Emma looked away, grasping for the right words. Jack's breath caught as he realized how far he would go to see her soar. Just think about it, he urged gently, brushing his fingers against her elbow. The contact lingered, electricity sparking between them. You are worth every step to get there. She finally met his gaze again, contemplating. There was a flicker of hope in her eyes, but doubt still lingered. Would she ever trust him enough? Would she dare to dream? As they stood in the quiet, a moment passed, heavy with potential. Jack's heart raced. He laid everything on the line, but was it enough to convince her? Just give me a chance, he whispered, unsure of what would happen next, but feeling he was meant to be there in that moment. And then their world shifted as footsteps echoed from the diner's entrance. It was a friend of Jack's, a face he didn't want to see right now. Would this interruption shatter the hope they had been building in silence? Jack felt the sudden shift in the air, a thread of tension coiling tightly in his stomach. His friend Mark, wide-eyed and boisterous, rushed into the alley as if he owned the place. The sound of his laughter grated against the charged silence that hung between Jack and Emma. Hey Jack! I thought that was you, Mark shouted, oblivious to the intimacy of the moment. He flashed an easy grin, swaggering closer, his loud presence breaking the fragile atmosphere. Emma stiffened, her eyes darting from Jack to Mark, and Jack's heart sank as he realized she might retreat behind her walls again. Hey Mark, he said, forcing a smile, trying to mask the frustration bubbling inside him. What are you doing here? Just dropping by for a bite. Can't believe you're hiding back here instead of enjoying the main event. Mark clapped him on the back as if they were old buddies just catching up. But as Jack stood there, he felt anything but casual. He glanced at Emma, whose eyes were now downcast, disappointment etched across her face. The moment he had fought for was slipping through his fingers like sand. Emma, right? Mark boomed, turning his focus on her now, unaware of the emotional turmoil that had just moments ago danced between them. You work here? Yes, she replied quietly, trying to shrink back into her apron as if it could shield her. Just a waitress. Well, we should grab a drink sometime. Mark grinned, sending what he thought was a charming wink her way. Jack could see Emma forcing a smile, but her eyes showed conflicting feelings. She collected her thoughts, but the spark from earlier had dimmed. Thanks, but she began, but Jack stepped in, urgency seeping into his voice. Mark, can you give us a minute? Jack's tone was sharp enough to cut through the laughter and clattering dishes inside the diner. He needed to protect what was left of this moment with Emma. Mark raised an eyebrow, suspicion creeping into his playful demeanor. Sure, man. Just give us a minute, Jack insisted, the words heavy with emotion. Mark opened his mouth, about to protest, but the look in Jack's eyes silenced him. All right. I'll be inside, he said, holding his hands up in mock defeat as he retreated back through the door till silence engulfed them again. Jack turned anxiously to Emma. She remained leaning against the wall, her arms still crossed tightly. I didn't mean for him to interrupt, he admitted softly, desperate to reignite the connection that flickered just moments before. Emma sighed, her defenses still standing tall. It's fine, Jack. It's a lot to think about. Maybe this was a mistake. No, he insisted, stepping closer, the heat of his conviction pulling her back into his orbit. We were right there. Don't let him change that. I don't even know him, she whispered, her voice trembling, a mix of fear and regret veiling her vulnerability. But you know me, Jack said, desperation pouring from his heart. What I'm offering is real. Please don't push me away because of an interruption. They stood there, the world around them quiet except for the soft rustle of leaves and the distant laughter from inside the diner. Jack could feel her wavering, a hesitation that could go either way. Emma looked up, searching his eyes, as if she were trying to read the truth behind his promises. In that moment, Jack knew this was more than just a conversation. It was a choice. Suddenly, a siren wailed in the distance, piercing the fragile silence. Emma flinched and stepped back slightly, breaking the spell. The moment slipped away once more like grains of sand. "I need to go," she said, her voice breaking, a note of finality in her words. "Emma, wait," Jack pleaded as she turned to head back towards the diner. But he could see the resolve building in her shoulders, the weight of the decision she carried. Yet, as she paused at the kitchen door, she glanced over her shoulder, an unspoken question in her eyes. "Will you still be here?" Jack's heart raced. Would this moment lead to a choice neither of them was ready for? Or would it shatter everything they had just begun to explore? "Always," Jack replied, his voice steady, but deep down, the lurking uncertainty haunted him. What if she chose to walk away? Not just from him, but from the dream he desperately wanted to help her achieve. As the door swung shut, Jack was left standing in the alley, with hope tangled in the uncertainty of what had just happened. But could he find a way to reach her before the fear consumed her entirely? Jack stood there, the chill of evening creeping in, mixing with the heat of his racing heart. The laughter and chatter drifted through the diner's open door, a stark contrast to the tension that held him in place. He replayed Emma's face in his mind, the way her smile had tugged at him, the way her walls had so quickly risen. Always. The word echoed, but it felt inadequate in the weight of the moment. How could he promise her that? What if she left, taking with her the flicker of hope? He shoved his hands into his pockets and paced the cobblestones, the soft thud of his footsteps the only sound in the quiet alley. He looked around, noticing old posters peeling off the brick walls and the faded glow of a distant street lamp. Everything felt stagnant, as if the city outside was unaware of the storm whirling in his heart. They had been so close. He had been so close. Jack took a deep breath, drawing strength from the air, letting it fill him with determination. Couldn't he leave things like this? "Jack." Mark's voice cut through the quiet. He emerged from the diner, wiping his hands on a napkin, a flurry of energy. "What's the deal with you and Emma?" "She's complicated," Jack replied, not ready to dive deeper. Mark studied him, the playful facade wavering for a moment. "Dude, if she's important to you, don't let fear screw it up. You need to talk to her again. Like now." Jack nodded, a new resolve blossoming. "Yeah, you're right. I don't want her to think I'm a distraction. I want her to see I'm serious about her. You can't run from this. People who let fear lead end up with regrets. Trust me." With that, Jack pushed past Mark and walked back toward the diner, resolve gripping him tight. Every step felt heavy, but hope began to lift him with each stride. When he reached the door, he hesitated, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses. But his eyes were drawn magnetically to the far side of the room where Emma stood, serving a table. Her apron was a smudge of faded colors against the bright decor, her hair falling in soft waves that framed her delicate face. But it was the fleeting smile she shared with another customer that struck a chord deep within him. A hint of something Jack wanted desperately: trust, connection, even warmth, and it ignited a fire in him. He took a deep breath, shoving aside his doubts, and walked over, ignoring the knot in his throat. When he reached her table, she looked up, surprise flickering across her features. "Emma," he said, his voice steady yet soft, "can we please talk?" Her gaze darted away briefly, uncertainty clouding her eyes, but she nodded, taking a step back from the table. "All right. Just give me a second." Jack waited, heart pounding, while she excused herself from her duties. When she approached, he could see the conflict in her eyes. "Jack, I really don't know if this is a good idea," she said, hesitating at the edge of vulnerability. "Please," he pleaded, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Just give me a chance to explain." Emma studied him, weighing her options, and Jack felt the world around them fade away. With a breath that settled somewhere between hope and dread, he reached for her hand. She hesitated for just a heartbeat before slipping hers into his. "What I wanted to say," he began, but before he could finish, the lights flickered overhead, and a loud crash erupted from the kitchen. Both of them jumped, eyes wide. The energy of the diner shifted, confusion rippling through the crowd. Jack's heart raced as he watched Emma's expression shift to concern, and in that moment, he felt the walls begin to close in around them both. Would this only draw her back down the path of fear? Could he still reach her when something so chaotic was unfolding between them? He gripped her hand tighter, certainty blooming as he prepared to fight against the chaos for a chance at a connection that felt so true. But as they turned toward the kitchen, uncertainty flooded back once more. How could he protect her in the heart of turmoil? Let us check it out together, he said, summoning every ounce of courage. But as they approached, he couldn't shake the question that gnawed at him. What if this was the moment that would change everything? Jack felt the pulse of adrenaline as he and Emma moved toward the kitchen, instinctively squeezing her hand tighter. The commotion inside had unsettled the diner, and the air crackled with a mixture of fear and intrigue. He could see a few customers peering over their booths, their eyes darting between the kitchen and the source of the crash. What was that? Emma asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. I don't know, but we should check, Jack replied, trying to keep his voice steady despite the fluttering in his stomach. As they reached the swinging kitchen door, the smell of burnt food mixed with the tang of something metallic filled the air. Jack pushed the door open and they stepped inside, met with a scene that was both chaotic and alarming. A stack of pans had toppled over, some clattering to the floor while others sizzled on a burner, emitting a plume of smoke. The kitchen staff moved in a flurry, trying to remedy the situation. One of the cooks, flustered, shouted orders to the others to grab flour for a spill. Jack could feel the heat from the stove radiating as he scanned the room, searching for the source of the commotion and Emma's reaction to it. Stay close, he instructed, keeping her hand secured in his. She nodded, but he could see in her eyes that the tension had shifted, concern overtaking any previous doubts. Just then a voice broke through the chaos. I've got it, cried Mark, navigating through the crowd of kitchen staff. He grabbed a flour sack from a shelf and dashed toward the still smoking area. As he poured it over the floor, the flames flickered but did not fully extinguish. Mark! Emma shouted, fear threading through her voice. She tried to step forward but Jack instinctively pulled her back. It's okay, he knows what he's doing, he reassured her, though his heart raced just the same. Mark gestured to them as he tossed the last of the flour, and soon the flames were under control. The kitchen staff let out a collective sigh of relief. See? All good. Crisis averted, he called, panting slightly but with a grin plastered across his face. Emma turned to Jack, her brow furrowed. I didn't know what was happening back there. It's okay, Jack interrupted, wanting to pull her closer. It's all good now. We handled it. She held his gaze and for a heartbeat, the chaos around them faded. Jack saw a flicker of admiration in her eyes, a softening, a connection he craved to explore. But just as quickly, the tension returned as the cook shouted for everyone to clear the area. We better get out of here, Emma said, and they stepped back through the door together, hearts still beating fast. Outside in the diner, the ambience had changed. The energy that had been filled with laughter was now a mixture of concern and anticipation. People were socializing again, but some glanced over at Emma, and Jack could see the worry etched in her expression. Are you okay? He asked, brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Emma nodded, but her eyes shimmered with something deeper. I don't know. I just feel like everything shifted in there. It's like I was reminded of what really matters. She hesitated, her voice dropping. Things can change in an instant, Jack. What if? Jack echoed, wanting to lean into that vulnerability. What if we lose what we almost had? She whispered. The weight of possibility hung between them, and Jack could feel the distance of her doubts creeping back in, veils of fear woven tight. He stepped closer, the noise of the diner fading around them, and lingered in the moment. We can't let fear dictate what we have. We should embrace it instead, whatever it is. Emma's gaze softened. You don't know what you might be taking on. Maybe I want that risk, he replied, his pulse racing. I want to be there for you, not just when things are easy but through this chaos too. Behind them, a swirl of laughter erupted, reminding them of the world waiting just beyond their embrace. But it was the soft sound of Mark calling out, breaking their bubble, that sent a rush of warmth through Jack's chest and left him with a burning question. Could two people truly navigate the storm together? With uncertainty etched in his heart, Jack knew they stood at a crossroads. one that could shape their future forever. As Jack and Emma stood there, enveloped in the lingering tension of the kitchen incident, the atmosphere outside began to shift once more. Laughter pealed through the diner, but now it felt distant, like they were the only two left within a growing storm. Jack, Emma began, her voice trembling as she broke away from the spell they'd created. What if the chaos isn't just here? What if it follows us? He could see the worry in her eyes, the kind that cut deep. She didn't just fear losing what they had. She feared the implications of stepping forward into something unknown. He took a step closer, his thumb brushing the back of her hand, steadying the tremors that betrayed her. I'd rather take on that chaos with you than face any of it alone, he whispered. His heart raced not only with fear but with a burgeoning hope. He wanted to be the anchor in her turbulent sea. Just then Mark reappeared, wiping sweat from his brow. You two all right? He asked, looking between them with a mix of concern and curiosity. Just a little shaken up, Jack admitted, the sound of his own voice pulling him closer to reality. Yeah, well, you both handled that like pros, Mark beamed. If you ask me, you make quite the team. Emma offered a tight smile, but Jack sensed her stiffness. She was still caught in the aftermath of their shared moment, and Mark's interruption had pulled her a little too abruptly. Jack wanted to wrap his arms around her, shield her from everything they hadn't voiced yet. Thanks, Mark, Emma murmured, her gaze shifting toward Jack. Can we talk? Just us? Sure. I'll give you a minute, Mark said lightly, backing off a few steps but lingering nearby. Sensing the change in the AIR's, the bustle returned around them. The weight of unsaid words hung heavy. Jack's stomach tightened as Emma's expression changed. She was searching for something amidst the uncertainty, and it made his heart ache, made him want to reach out again. Let us step outside, he suggested, leading her gently through the din of clinking plates and muffled conversations. The diner's neon sign cast a warm glow, washing everything in shades of pink and blue. Once outside, the cool breeze swept over them, contrasting the heat inside the diner. Jack leaned against the diner's outer wall, creating a small pocket of privacy. Emma, talk to me. What are you feeling? She hesitated, biting her lip as she stared at her hands. I don't want us to be like everyone else. I don't want to pretend we're okay when we're really not. That's fair. But we don't have to pretend, Jack replied, his voice steady. We can be real even when it's messy. We can figure it out together. Her gaze slowly lifted, meeting his eyes filled with the promise of sincerity. Do you think we can? I believe we can, if we just give ourselves a chance, he said, intensity radiating through his words. We just need to be brave enough to face whatever fear is pulling us back. Emma sighed. A gust of exasperation and relief. Scares me, Jack. It really does. Then let us embrace that fear together, he urged, gently squeezing her hands. Let us take it one step at a time. You don't have to do this on your own. Their eyes locked, a connection sparking between them, stronger than before. Emma took a deep breath, her shoulders relaxing slightly. Okay, let us do that. But where do we start? Jack grinned, ready to turn this moment of fear into a leap of faith. How about we share our favorite things? What makes us tick? Let us start there. Really? That sounds, but before she could finish, a commotion erupted behind them. Shouts and laughter flooded the air, grabbing their attention. What the? Jack turned to see a group of people spilling out of the diner, excitement radiating from them like an electric current. Emma's laughter broke through the uncertainty. Looks like we won. Get that private moment after all, she said, her lightheartedness lifting the heaviness. Jack chuckled too, unable to resist the pull of camaraderie around them. But he could feel the shift in energy, the pause before the next wave. Maybe not yet, but this doesn't end here, he said, his voice promising. As they moved closer to the crowd, he felt her hand in his again, their hearts still racing with potential and fear. But deep down, Jack understood that real connection often began amidst the chaos. What comes next? He thought, reminding himself that the heart thrives in the unpredictable. Their story was only just beginning. The laughter and chatter grew, a cacophony of voices blending together. The crowd outside the diner swirled with energy, spilling onto the sidewalk as if inviting Jack and Emma to join in. But despite the external celebration, something deep within Jack felt heavy. He turned to Emma, her face illuminated by the neon lights. revealing fleeting joy dancing in her eyes. "Shall we?" he asked, not sure if he meant joining the crowd or diving deeper into their conversation. Emma's smile faltered, the remnants of their earlier discussion still hovering between them. "Yeah, let us," she replied, though her voice held a quiver of uncertainty. Hand in hand, they stepped forward, mingling with the warmth and laughter radiating from the diners. The infectious joy seemed to wrap around them, yet Jack continued to feel an undercurrent of something unspoken, something that needed clarity. Mark approached them, catching sight of their joined hands. "Look at you two," he beamed, slapping Jack on the back. "You're practically glowing. What's the secret?" Jack glanced at Emma, sheepishly smiling before responding, "Just enjoying the moment, right?" Emma's laugh was soft, the kind that made Jack's heart lift. But then her expression shifted, and he noticed that her gaze drifted back towards the diner, where the hustle had resumed, oblivious to their turbulence. "Hey, let me get you guys something," Mark offered, seemingly eager to dissolve any lingering tension. He marched inside the diner, leaving Jack and Emma standing on the fringes of the gathering crowd. "Jack," Emma began again, her tone dipping back into seriousness. "What if our moment gets lost in all this?" "Then we fight for it," he replied, drawing her closer, determined, bringing their foreheads together. He breathed in the moment, feeling as tangled as the laughter around them. "We can't let our feelings drown in the chaos. It's too important." Emma's breath caught at his words, and for a heartbeat, everything else faded into nothing but the two of them. The chaos of the diner, the warm air thick with the scent of fried food, and the laughter that crackled in the evening air dimmed to a soft hum. "We're here," she breathed, her voice barely a whisper, as if she only needed him to hear. Before he could respond, another shout erupted from the crowd, distracting them both. Jack looked over his shoulder, seeing a group dancing animatedly, their spirits lifting into a jubilant display. He couldn't help but chuckle, the sight infectious. "Want to join them?" he asked, leaving the heaviness behind, trying to invite her into the fun. Emma hesitated, the brightness from the crowd reflecting a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "What if we get lost in all that?" she countered. "Then we'll get lost together," he said, pulling her toward the group as the familiar sentiment returned: laughter, connection, joy. It felt right to embrace the chaos instead of resisting it. But as they neared the lively group, Jack caught sight of Mark, making his way back with 2 drinks in hand. He stopped, surprise etched on his face, as if sensing the intensity between Jack and Emma. Jack felt a pang of frustration. The distraction pulled them apart again, but he couldn't let that overshadow the moment he was reaching for with Emma. "Hey, got you some sodas," Mark announced, his cheeriness breaking through the uncertainty as he handed them each a drink. "Thanks," Emma said, lifting her drink with faint gratitude, but Jack could see flickers of concern still weaving through her features. They clinked their cans together, the sound a small celebration amidst the tension. "Let us dance," Mark shouted, already moving to the beat that blasted from the diner's jukebox. Jack looked at Emma, waiting for her response. "Together?" she asked quietly, a small smile breaking through her lips. "Always together," Jack promised. As they joined Mark, the music enveloped them, and for a moment, Emma let out a laugh that rang true and free. Jack took hold of her waist, pulling her close, feeling each beat resonate between them. Her heartbeat matched the rhythm, and he could sense her barriers slowly crumbling away. But as they twirled, and the moment swelled with spontaneous joy, a thought lingered in Jack's mind. Their connection was not simply a game of escaping reality. What would happen when the music stopped, and they had to face the chaos again? Emma stepped back slightly, her expression shifting as if trapped in thought. Jack held her gaze, hoping she'd see the truth in his eyes, that they were worth fighting for together. But would that be enough? Just then the ground beneath them rumbled, shaking the world they had momentarily created. "What's going on?" Emma shouted over the noise, a flicker of concern darkening her playful mood. Jack's heart raced. The day had only just begun, and with an unexpected twist, they faced another challenge ahead. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as the rumble intensified. The laughter and music faded into a backdrop of confusion and fear. People around them began to look up, glancing around, their expressions shifting from joy to alarm. "Is it an earthquake?" Mark yelled, his voice barely cutting through the chaos. Jack could feel Emma's grip tightening on his arm as the ground continued to shake. "No," Emma said, her eyes wide. "Look." She pointed toward the diner, where a brilliant flash of light burst from the rooftop. The crowd gasped collectively, momentarily frozen in disbelief. "Stay close," Jack shouted, instinctively pulling Emma tighter to his side. The music stopped, leaving an eerie silence in its wake, punctuated only by the distant sounds of panic. Jack could sense the crowd's anxiety mounting, their earlier joy having vanished like smoke. It was strange how everything that felt certain moments ago now hung by a thread. "What just happened?" Jack asked, scanning the area for anything out of the ordinary. Whatever chaos was brewing, it felt threatening and foreign, creeping into every moment of their evening. Before anyone could answer, the diner's front door swung wide open, and a wave of heat burst forth. A woman burst through, wild-eyed and panic-stricken. "Fire! Get back!" she shrieked, her voice slicing through the crowd. "Everyone, move away from the diner," Mark commanded, and instinct kicked in. People started to scramble, retreating from the entrance as smoke started to pour out like an ominous shroud. Jack's protective instincts took over. He grabbed Emma's hand and started pulling her back. "Where is everybody?" Jack shouted, trying to keep his voice steady despite the fear clawing at him. Emma's eyes darted around, wide and shining, but she remained focused on Jack, searching for reassurance. "What do we do?" she asked, the tremor in her voice betraying her calm facade. "Just stick with me," he said, but he wished he had a solid plan. Families were scattering. The crowd was beginning to break into hasty groups. Jack caught sight of Mark urging people into action, his voice straining against the growing panic. Then, a thought hit him like a bolt of lightning. "We need to help," he said, beyond the instinct to keep himself and Emma safe. That was not enough. People could be inside. "Jack, be careful," Emma protested, but he was already moving. Half of him feared he might regret it, but there was a deeper part that felt compelled to act. Life felt fragile at that moment, something he had only recently begun to appreciate. With a deep breath, he turned back toward the diner, determination flooding his veins before heading inside. He glanced back at Emma. Her expression was a mixture of concern and admiration. He offered her a quick, reassuring nod before plunging through the smoke-filled doorway. Inside, the air was thick and stinging. The sound of crackling fire filled his ears. He coughed but pressed forward, calling out, "Is anyone here?" Echoes of silence enveloped him as he ventured into the darkened diner, the flickering lights struggling to stay alive. The chaos outside felt distant now. All that mattered was finding anyone who might still be inside. And just when he thought he might have to backtrack, a small voice cried out from behind the counter. Jack's heart plummeted. Someone was there. Help! It was a waitress, crouched low to the floor, struggling to get to her feet as she waved weakly. As Jack hurried over, he took a moment to assess her. She looked terrified but not injured. "I've got you," he said, reaching out to help her stand. Behind them, the fire crackled ominously. In that blink, Jack felt the weight of a million emotions surge through him: fear, hope, and the undeniable urge to protect. What he didn't expect was to feel a warmth radiating from her, thanks, like she was handing him a piece of her heart. As they stumbled toward the door together, the sound of the chaos outside suddenly felt urgent. They weren't out of danger yet. Just as they stepped back into the fresh air, a loud crack echoed from inside. Something big was starting to give way behind them. Would they make it out with more than their lives? Jack's mind raced, each second stretching into what felt like hours. But as they emerged into the light, the world outside the diner suddenly became a question mark. Jack and the waitress burst through the door, the night air hitting them like a wave of relief. The crowd outside erupted into a mix of cheers and gasps. Emma stood frozen, anxiety filling her features, but the moment she laid eyes on Jack, her expression shifted to one of wild relief. "I thought you were," she began, her breath catching. "I'm okay. I found her." Jack nodded toward the shaken waitress, still clinging to him but now safe. The small crowd surged forward, friends and strangers melding into one collective heart. Mark was there, his face pale. "Whoa, Jack. You went in? That was nuts." Jack just nodded, still processing what had just transpired. He felt a wave of adrenaline coursing through him, the thrill of being alive, of making a difference when it mattered most. Emma stepped forward, her eyes intense. You could have gotten hurt. Why did you go back inside? I couldn't just stand there, he said. His voice grounded with sincerity. People needed help. Life is too precious, Emma. Every moment matters. But what risks will we take next time? Emma's words trembled as she searched his gaze, fear shadowing her excitement. Jack stepped closer, holding her hands in his firmly yet gently, an anchor in a storm. That's the thing, maybe there will always be chaos. But if we embrace it together, we give ourselves a chance. Embracing the unknown with someone we trust, that's what matters. Behind them, the fire crew began to arrive, but it was Jack's essence that drew the attention of the crowd once more. They all had been momentarily stitched together in that moment of danger, heightened awareness born from everything that had happened. Look at everyone, he whispered, nodding toward the faces brimming with relief, laughter intermingled with tears. They feel alive, Emma responded quietly, finally allowing a small smile to stretch across her lips. Just like us, Jack replied, the truth settling in his heart. It wasn't just about the chaos. It was about recognizing the beauty within it. Another warmth broke across Emma's face as they stood together, no longer on the outskirts but in the heartbeat of life itself. And your bakery, Emma, he continued, his voice filled with passion. Let us do it. I'll stand by you. We can make it happen. Her eyes widened, a flicker of disbelief mixed with hope. Really? You mean it? I mean it, he smiled, squeezing her hands gently. We can navigate every moment together. I want us to build something real. Just as that thought hung in the air, a muffled cheer erupted from the crowd. One of the firemen came over, nodding at Jack and Emma, his face stern yet grateful. You kids did a good thing tonight. You were brave. Emma turned, her cheeks flushing with pride. Thank you. Let us keep that spirit up, Jack said earnestly. Let us strive to meet life like this. And that's when it clicked for them both. Jack wasn't just a millionaire trying to buy a moment of connection. Emma was more than a waitress with dreams. Together, they could transcend social barriers, financial risks, and fears. This wasn't charity, it was partnership. The energy of the crowd shifted. People were talking, laughing, hugging, and redefining what it meant to be alive. Jack could feel it connecting everyone, lifting the weight off their shoulders just a little. Together? Emma asked softly, her features full of hope and readiness. Always together, Jack affirmed, sealing their bond with that promise. As the fire lights flickered behind them, illuminating their faces, they stepped closer, lost in a warmth that transcended words. No matter what the future held, they'd face it together. In that moment, the laughter of the crowd, the newfound purpose of hope, and the resilience shining in every connection carved a certainty within them that felt like home. And in that diner, amidst all the chaos that had once felt overwhelming, a story was born. One that would remind them both of how truly interconnected lives could be. A story that mattered, where dreams weren't just wishes, but attainable realities fueled by shared courage. Don't wait another second. This is the moment to show your support and subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now if you felt that transformation and comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring story of courage and connection. You need to share because only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.